True Talk, a podcast from Trueland Equipment, where community, farming, and John Deere technology collide.
What's new in agriculture? What's happening in your neighborhood? And most importantly, who are the people that make it all happen?
True Talk, cultivating true conversations. Welcome back to the True Talk podcast. Good morning, Jackson.
Morning, Josh. Recording here live in Bluffton, Indiana.
Bluffton, Indiana, right. Welcome back. Today is going to be our first Tech Roundtable discussion of 2026.
Correct, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Got to squeeze those in periodically. We are a technology department, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So have a couple guests in the room with us today.
Yes, tech related, right? So they're from our team.
Right.
So we're biased polling from the team.
Right. First timers on the podcast, too.
That is true.
Yeah. Tyler Thomas, you can introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I'm Tyler Thomas. I'm a CST out of the Napoleon store. I also do customer account
Management,
yeah.
What store did you say?
Sales, but
Sales,
I'm
yeah.
out of the Napoleon store.
Napoleon, Ohio.
Correct.
Got it.
Napoleon, Ohio.
Yeah. CAM, right? Got to have our three-letter acronym.
Is there a Napoleon, Indiana?
I don't know.
I know there's a Napoleon, Michigan.
As a Hoosier, I should probably know that, but I don't.
I thought you were going to say I should probably hope not. But,
Oh, well, no.
yeah. I don't know. So, no, welcome. Good teammate. Like you said, you're part-time sales, part-time precision ag.
Yep.
How long?
I've been 2017 is when I started. So yeah, I call it.
Pushing 10 years?
Yep, 10 years. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Welcome. He's a podcast fan, he says.
Yep. Long time listener. First
Hey.
time
Of
podcaster.
first
Yep.
time. There we
Podcasts
go.
Of general podcasts. But
Like to hear it.
yeah, also welcome Ryan Maxwell to the podcast for the first time. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Where are you from? What you doing?
Yeah, I work at our Frankfort, Indiana store, CST as well, and sales, just like Tyler.
Split role.
Split role. Yeah.
What role? And how long have you been in the game? I have to say in the game because
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I've been back for about 6 months. I was original Jackson Lee Pearson employee, worked in the shop, started in like 2007. So I've been about 20 years, which is weird to say because I don't feel like I'm that old.
So you've been in the industry for 20 years. You've bounced around. So you said Jackson Lee Pearson. That was one of our parent stores probably 3 mergers ago.
Parent of a parent.
Right. So in the Flora, Indiana, which is kind of where I work out of. And yeah, he's been here for not quite a year, but you are no stranger to the industry.
yeah. And I have to point out one of the only, I think, Indiana side employees, IS department, that is not a Purdue graduate, not a Boilermaker.
Yeah.
What is up with that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ohio State and Purdue kind of the
Dominant, yeah.
Yeah, we're IU's not exactly an ag school. Again, another long story we don't have to get into, but yeah.
They are a football school, evidently.
Apparently now we are, yeah.
I'll keep to myself.
Let us have this for right now.
Sure. Hey. No, you're doing good. So we thought it'd be a great time, again, talking about Technology Roundtable, sitting here late February.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, we've got sunshine. We've had snow for basically almost 3 months on the ground, right?
It is actually a very beautiful day out. I walked outside to my truck, no jacket on, no hat, and I'm like, this is,
Right.
I mean, with the sun out, I mean, it's above freezing. It's really nice.
So when this podcast comes out, I'm hoping that's still the case.
Yeah, right. Well, I
That's what we
actually
say
kind of need it to thaw and then
Right.
freeze again because I still have some boundary deals that need to get done.
Right. It's going to get a little muddy too. But yeah, we've had 3 months of basically 3 months of snow, and now we're sitting here with the snow melts pretty quick. I can't believe it when the sun comes out and the temperature goes up, and all of a sudden you've got people talking about field work. It's amazing what a change in weather does to the spirit and the mentality of customers, and even got people talking about, hey, we may want to try to shoot some anhydrous on next week, and it changes the mentality quick, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good time to kind of talk about technology, think about what's coming up in 2026 because it's coming fast.
Correct. Yeah. And so, hopefully with field work imminent, we've been hitting all of our customers up for our precision ag visits or
Right.
meetings, we'll
Right.
call them. And so we're kind of considering this a bit of our internal precision ag visit,
Sure.
a checkup on our own department, maybe.
Sure. Maybe a little recap. So we have decided, and you guys can chime in anytime, as a department, be a great time to get around and just visit as many customers as we can. And what I'm calling them precision ag, maybe health checks or updates or just meetings just to get an idea of everybody's kind of heartbeat on their technology situation, what's going on in their operation, what's been working, what's not been working. And the reality is, we do know that the farm economy is a little bit tough right now. And if you're in this business long enough, you go through plenty cycles of up and down, right? Where things are good, and then we hit a couple of years where there's a little lull. And right now, input costs are high in the market. We're never happy with where the grain markets are, right? But so it's a little tight in some places, right? There's not a lot of things moving, but to me, that's a really good time to be thinking about the small areas that we can make improvements, right? And technology is a pretty easy area to get into cost-wise and component-wise. And so it's been really productive to visit with customers and just kind of talk. Again, get an idea of their pulse on their situation and what's working and what's not. And I feel like they've been really productive so far.
Yeah, I think so. Just this winter just seems to drag on, and we had the couple weeks of like sub-zero temperatures, right? So it's been kind of tough to get people to want to, get out or whatever. But sunshine has kind of helped move that along, and really, it's been a common theme. As you said, Josh, of the farm economy. We're kind of pinching pennies, but everybody's looking for efficiencies, right? And ways of cutting the fat, or just whatever they can do to minimize their costs. And really, technology has been the driving factor of a lot of that. So it's been good to get around to everybody. And me being kind of new, it's kind of forced me to get out and meet or re-meet everybody. So it's been really good on my side.
Yeah. So I guess I would say I think we have a kind of general outline for our visits, but then other than that, I think we kind of just leave it up to each individual to do. So I guess Ryan, what does that look like for you for a precision ag visit?
But yeah, we want to know really what you're using, what's working well, what's not working well, and what can we do, as a partner to improve your technology use and make sure that the money you've spent is worth your time and the money that because the technology is not cheap. Let's not kid ourselves. So
It's not cheap, but it's cheaper than a tractor.
Yeah, I was going to
Decided
say
that.
and it's the ROI on technology is higher than probably anything on the farm, I would imagine.
Yeah, especially if you look at the breakdown on it, because buying a new piece of iron is far outweighs buying a new display or upgrading a display or something of that nature. I always like to phrase it to them, it's a meeting for you. So you take me off the rails, I'll keep it going. But if you have other things that I don't mention or you want to talk about, by all means, I want it to be worth your time for us to be here.
You brought up, again, basing that off the economy, technology is not cheap. It's relatively cheap at a time, and obviously we would love to sell tractors. Let's not gloss under the gloss over that. Yeah, it's cheaper, but you want to buy a tractor, please give us a call, right? We'll definitely sell you a tractor. But you bring in labor and some things like that. You're right. When you're in a little bit of a downswing in the economy, labor matters, efficiency matters, right? Being precise with our herbicides and our fertilizers matter. A lot of those things matter, and technology is definitely a driving force to make us better at all those things.
One of my favorite boxes to check or to add is the guy's adopting section control, because he just never ran it, didn't have equipment, but he's like, I want to get it on XYZ implement, or it has the capability. I've just never got the activation.
I love that.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing, but
Right.
it's so impactful.
Just goes to show that there are still people out there that can make. You don't have to be the top of the totem pole in terms of technology, right? You can start anywhere, and that's the idea of. Again, I don't want to just harp on the customer visits themselves, because the reality is they're just a tool to get us to that point. But you can start anywhere on the technology tree.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, I had a visit with a customer who he thought it was great that I said, yeah, we can connect up your 2630s and move your planning AB line into Op Center and then push it out to the side dressing tractor with a 2630 in it wirelessly. I can help you do that wirelessly. No USB. He goes, what? No way.
Connectivity, right? Yeah. One of the most important things on our list. Hot topics. Obviously, we've got a lot of things we can talk about. Connectivity, you brought that up. That's one thing. That's a big step, right, for guys that are maybe not quite as high in the technology tree. I'm going to ask Tyler and put you on a spot. What does connectivity mean to you, and when you think about your customers?
Well, for one, first thing that comes to mind for me is being a part of the call center, being able to remote into a display, remote access. That is so helpful when a guy calls in. They know how to run the display, but sometimes they just don't know how to get to where they need to go. And it's much easier to explain it when you can see the screen, and instead of them trying to explain something over the phone. So that's number one for me,
So
that connectivity.
It allows us to support the customer better.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Exactly. So that's more on our end than their end, I would say. But on a customer end, them being able to get all their data instantly over the air, wirelessly, without having to move USB sticks, they can pull up their phone. A son can be sitting at the elevator dumping and see what the yield's doing or where they're at in the field or where they need to go. That's huge as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I always like you mentioned RDA, and yeah, I think the dealer sees a lot of benefit from it, and maybe more so than the customer. But there's some operations where it's so funny because I look at the younger person in that operation and I go, yeah, you can see what Grandpa's doing on the phone or on the display. You don't have to try and FaceTime or call him or whatever. You can just RDA into your screen because that's not just dealer access only, right? That's something a customer can access as well.
And I'm glad you brought up the son, because the reality is a lot of these customers that have younger growers that have younger sons or younger employees in the operation, they really, really enjoy having that app, Op Center app on their phone. They love being able to RDA into, right, see where the tractor's at in the field, and connectivity allows all that stuff to happen. So, and obviously we've made a big push for connectivity. Again, we believe that the customer being connected into the Op Center, having access to that data, having that smooth data flow, being able to send setup files back and forth, guidance lines back and forth, and also just, again, that customer support. It's so much easier for us to help our customers when we can be connected with them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's been, again, we'd like to think most of our customers are connected, but there's a lot that aren't yet. So that's one thing we've kind of covered in these meetings as well. So other hot topics, what else is coming up in these? Advanced guidance is obviously a big one for me.
Advanced guidance. I was going to say, I know we're pushing the importance of boundaries, but it seems like it's getting around to customers without dealer intervention. Because I have a lot of customers that I've never mentioned boundaries to, and they go, "Hey, how do I map my boundaries? I want to do that."
Right.
Yeah, I've had guys that have started doing that themselves, haven't even asked, and they say, "Hey, we've got a gator that we've been setting up for." They've got most of the gator set up for boundary mapping, and they just want the extra help to get it finished up. And how would you do this, or what are the best practices that they've already kind of proactively started doing without any really intervention from us? It's must be an industry-wide thing. It just, there's a lot of discussion going on about good boundaries.
Well, when we've pushed the discussion for the last few years, and now that discussion is resonating through customers, I think, too. And I agree with you. They all kind of know that, hey, if I want to get into some of these more advanced technology features, whether we're talking about auto track turn automation or any of the AutoPaths, it's going to help to have good boundaries. So that's good, right? Got guys thinking that. So.
Well, it makes it easy, right?
Right. And we've said it before. We've talked about boundaries on podcasts many times, but good practices. Anybody want to throw anything in? To me, it's high fidelity boundaries become more and more important, right? The more advanced your technology is.
I think something that people may not realize is you say the word advanced and they think, okay, I gotta get whatever subscription. What a lot of the stuff that they need for these advanced options, they already have the basic foundation, and they may just need one extra thing or maybe no extra things. They just need to turn it on and tune it. So if you're looking at AutoPath or turn automation, chances are you may, if you've got late model equipment, you may have everything you need.
Yeah, you may be one step away.
I was actually going to touch on that. I've found so many guys have access or ATTA unlocked and they don't even know it or just don't use it. And it might be a 10-minute trip out to a field to get it set up. It's really not that hard to set up. And I've done that a lot. Just make a visit to a field, get it set up, show them how easy it is to use and that it works. And then within 2 rounds, we've got it dialed in and they can use it. And that's expanding more and more. I mean, they've unlocked it for combines. They've unlocked it for sprayers.
Yeah, it's new in sprayers this year, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that's just going to keep expanding. And I foresee guys locking into that a little bit more now.
I'm glad you brought that up. You're better than me because I always say it takes 4 rounds to get it locked in.
Yeah.
Hey, it depends on how long. It depends on how long the field is, because sometimes I don't have enough time to punch in my changes before I have to make another.
And I'll say too, if they ever used iTech Pro in the past,
thank you.
Forget about any of that.
Yeah.
This is a whole different system. It's way easier to use, and it actually works.
So that's where I was heading to, is that people hear about turn automation, then they go back to the scary days of very complicated setups, and it's just not like that anymore. It is super simple. It's basically you're setting boundaries and basically picking so many feet where you want to turn and this and that. You're doing about 4 or 5 little inputs, and you can get it pretty close, and then you can fine tune it after that. So, and you can do it all on the fly.
all in flight. Yeah, and that's the nice thing because, like I said, I mentioned earlier, it depends for me how many rounds it takes. It all depends on how long that field is because there are some buttons you gotta hit, and sometimes you're trying to make minute changes, and so you're playing with it, and then you look up and go, oh crap, the end of the turn's there, and it's already making the turn that you didn't really want before you made the changes. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's
Tyler Thomas, keep your hands close to the steering wheel when you get started, right?
That's right. Yeah.
When you first put your first inputs in, you want to make sure you're able to stop the machine if it's not perfect.
When I'm riding with a customer, you can tell how nervous they are on the first turn, especially. Like, is this thing actually going to turn? And
right.
yeah,
Especially when there's a phone pole. When there's a phone pole or a power pole right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always say just keep your foot close to the clutch and your hands close to the wheel, and we can stop this thing if we have to.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say like safety warning, I guess maybe, or disclosure. It will go over a boundary. Right. Because if that boundary is not accurate, right, it doesn't care. It's going to make it. I've rode with the customer throwing like a 45-foot draper over a road before, trying to dial in ATTA.
Yeah, I mean,
just to be honest,
it tells you you're going to go out.
It does. It tells you. It tells you. But I was like, well, we'll see. We'll watch.
So setup's important. Understanding your equipment dimensions, having a good quality boundary, and again, it's really not that difficult. It's actually really fun to do. I mean, I think it is. Maybe I'm crazy, but it's fun when you get that set up and it works.
Some of my favorite time is spent in a cab with a customer. That's especially when they're really willing and wanting to get the technology set up. I'd rather spend all day with that customer in the cab than have to go back to the office. But I think that's probably true for most of us.
Right. It's a lot of fun. So those are, again, what I would call hot topics, right? Guys that have heard about it, we've talked about it. So many are just ready to take that next step right into that technology. And like you said, they may have what they need. They may be one activation away, maybe one small subscription away. Obviously, in a lot of these, it's important to have a good quality satellite correction signal. So some of these won't work with anything less than SF3, but it's a good time to venture into that SFRTK, right? If guys haven't done that yet too. So it's good stuff. So obviously, Op Center is another part of these customer visits for me, but mainly because I'm kind of an Op Center guy. I'm a data guy. I'm an agronomy guy. We know Op Center is going to support a lot of these technologies as well. Making sure, again, good boundaries are in there. Things are set up correctly. AutoPath boundaries, we know we can set it up in the display, but to me, it's a lot more simple to set it up in the Op Center.
One of my favorite things to do with Op Center when I go out to do these customer visits is talk about how it doesn't matter if it's John Deere data, if it's Ag Leader data, if it's precision planning data. It does third-party displays we can store and process and actually analyze that data inside Operations Center, whether we're doing it manually or through a connection. And so, like yesterday, I was actually out at a customer that, well, they're not quite a customer yet because they run a lot of red equipment. They have one piece of green, and they're just getting a taste for Operations Center. And I pointed out, I said, we can put your planning data in there. We can overlay that with your yield maps from the red combine. Like, we can make that work. And it's, Op Center is totally free. So it's just a matter of getting it in there. And you can, actualize that value that's just sitting somewhere on a display and not being used. So,
and this is the time of year, like I said, it's cold outside. Nobody wants to be outside. Get in the Op Center. Make sure your yield data from last year is in there. It's correct. It's clean. If it needs cleaned up, perfect time to do it now and prepare for planting season, which is coming really, really quickly.
Yes, it is, and I agree. It's been again. There's no secret. There's a lot of people that have again off color. Maybe they have some precision planting stuff, or they're using climate. But all that stuff can be tied together and function together. And obviously, we're a big fan of the Op Center. Love our product. I think it's one of the best analysis tools out there, right? Regardless of the color of equipment that collects the data. So that's been a really important part of these conversations as well, is just helping people understand that they can flow their data in and use it to do a lot of analysis. But the reality is it's the Deere technology in the cab that's going to push a lot of this top technology. And the Op Center is the hub that makes it all happen.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and something you said, I've got several guys that have a mixed fleet that have kind of shied away from Op Center because they think, it's John Deere Op Center. You have to have John Deere equipment. You don't. It's pretty easy to put it all in there.
And again, I'm a big fan of the Op Center. I'm a big fan of the analysis tools. And I think once you get a customer like that in there and they see the power of the program, they're going to be hooked and appreciate what it brings to the table. So Very common, right? Very common out there. There's a lot of tools, and we're obviously proud of our own, and definitely think we have a very good product. But back to the component that it brings to the table. Again, when you're talking about technology, having that ops center cleaned up, good, ready to go, it really supports that in-cab technology in the tractors. So.
Well, not only supports technology. I like to make the analogy too sometimes that it's in essence a digital filing cabinet. I mean, I still like my paper copies from time to time on things. I know I say that as a tech guy.
Podcast.
I did. I had to. I'm too old school. Even though I'm not that.
He's the youngest guy in the room.
Hey, writing on paper, pencil, pad, and pen helps connect things to your head.
Having
brain.
the backup data is important. I agree with that because there are times that we get phone calls from guys that say, "Hey, I had a row starter plot out in this field and it's not there. I can't figure out." And I look at the data and say, "Hey, somebody logged it wrong, dude. I can't help you with that. Whoever's running the display didn't have it plugged in right, or the information plugged in right." So, no, I agree. Having that backup system is good. But Op Center is an incredible tool. Bottom line, right? It gets better and better every day, and it keeps getting more expensive every day too. So.
You mean to tell me that there's another company that charges a subscription for something? Is that what I'm with? Yeah.
So what it sounds like.
Counterpoint we could probably use, right?
Yeah. We take a lot of heat for that sometimes.
Yeah,
so there you go. So any other hot topics out there? Obviously, we want to get into RTK, SFRTK.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd like to ask, like, what do you guys think has been the number one topic of conversation personally?
Or even just sales discussions, even if it's not a precision.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you guys are unique in the fact that you guys do both precision and sales.
In general, my meetings have kind of been just explain to the customer, this is just an open discussion. What I found really beneficial with them is just tying up loose ends, right? We've talked about how winter's kind of a slow time, not necessarily for us, but for customers. Unless you're pushing snow, then you're busy. But no, it's kind of a slow time. And what I found very helpful in these meetings is just getting loose ends tied up. I've got customers, their subscriptions are expiring in March, and it's not necessarily anything we would have even thought about until the report comes out. Hey, these guys are expiring, or until they're in the middle of planting.
Or until they're in the middle of the field.
Hey,
yeah.
I just went through my first headland and the planter didn't shut off. And okay, let's see what we're working with here. But so I've found it beneficial to be able to tie up all these loose ends in the winter when we're kind of not thinking about it. It kind of forces us to talk about it and say, hey, what loose ends can we tie up here before we get really busy? And it's helpful to manage the workload when it hits the prime time, your 2 days of planting window in spring.
Yeah, I do use that myself as well as leverage, because I've been saying this past year, like throughout the season, as something's come up and it's been too busy, too chaotic to try and really get it nailed down, to say, well, we'll meet in the winter and get that figured out. And so when they're kind of struggling to say, well, I got to look at my schedule, I'm like, well, hey, we have XYZ that we talked about in spring that we need to get figured out. He goes, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess we should sit down and get that figured out. So...
Well, what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so I don't give the guys over in Frankfurt the option. I typically make them schedule the meeting, set it up, and I want them involved. From my past career or what I did before I came here, I found success in getting people involved as much as possible, parts, service, sales, and I just preach to them, hey, we're called integrated solutions because we're integrated throughout the entire dealership. So I want them part of the meeting. I want them to know the lingo and just, even if they're just sitting in the corner of the room, just listen and pick something up. And it's just good to, to get them in front of the customers that they're working with all the time. I think relationships is the biggest part of all of this, right? So,
and I agree with that. I think, again, that's the support system, right? To make all this stuff, make all this happen. And again, you guys we're all salesmen in a way, right? Let's be honest. I mean, we all represent the company, but I agree that these have been a great opportunity just to build some relationships too this winter and strengthen relationships. Again, if you're not, there's not a lot of equipment moving. Let's be honest. I mean, again, things are a little bit tight. Just being able to sit down and get caught up and how are things going? Again, my favorite question, what struggles are you having? Because you're going to get an answer. I may be struggling with this type of thing in the tractor. A lot of them to me are op center stuff. And you're sitting there, you can really dive in with them and say, hey, one guy says, hey, I really like to write my own seed prescriptions. Well, let's go into the op center to the prescription creator, and I'll show you how to do that. And there's just a lot of things that we can help guys do, at this time of year, again, when we're sitting there and going over things that just takes a few minutes, right, to show somebody how to do something and how to maybe correct something that they're struggling with. So
Yeah, I really like that question too, because it opens the door for somebody has some like just little thing that they wouldn't otherwise call us about, or, it's just something that bugs them. And so it allows them to talk about it. And I can't even remember what it was of the situation, but it was this thing that the customer struggled with, right? And to me, I was like, oh, that's a really easy thing. And it was a couple button pushes and he's on his way. And that was the only complaint he had about the whole thing. But it was so insignificant that he wasn't going to take the time to come in and ask about it or call. But us proactively going out there and asking that question lets you think and kind of brainstorm of all those little pain points you have. And again, just looking for efficiencies and trying to iron out all the wrinkles.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because yesterday I had a meeting yesterday morning, and the things I asked, and they go, well, it just didn't quite, da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da-da, but I got it to work, and we would have never figured that out if we hadn't went and met with that. It wouldn't have probably happened over a phone call. It wouldn't have happened through text. It was getting in front of the customer face-to-face, sales 101, building rapport. That's the other thing I'll put in front of the cam or the salesperson, is the fact that we still are a people company, right? I keep making this plug in our podcast. We're cultivating true conversations. You don't do that over the phone or by text. Granted, it's made our lives way easier to get business done, but at the end of the day, who is that on the other side of the phone? You want to go sit in front of them and talk to them. And so I'll push that in front of salesmen. I'm like, when was the last time you met with them? Regardless of if you've sold something to them, like, when was the last time you met with them?
You made a great point, Jackson. Just being able to sit, have face-to-face conversations, again, true conversations. We're talking about things that otherwise would not have gotten brought up. I'm convinced of that as well. So
yeah, touching a little more on that before we move on. One thing I found interesting is we've all had it happen where fall customer calls in and says, hey, I've got this going on. Not a huge deal, but this winter, let's sit down and figure this out. Well, a month goes by, 2 months go by, we all forget about it. We've taken 20 of those phone calls throughout fall, whether it's call center or direct from a customer. Mm-hmm. So then it kind of slips everybody's mind, even the customer. Well, these meetings allow you to kind of, hey, wait a minute, didn't you have problems with guest rows last year? Did we ever get that figured out? Actually, yeah, no, we didn't. So it's a great time to kind of bring up those old, I guess, demons, if you will.
Yeah, I've said that so many times. Yeah. That almost verbatim line, like, hey, didn't you XYZ this problem so many times already this winter?
Yeah. And to me, it's an op center thing. Like, there's so many customers, I just wanted to take some time in the winter and sit with them and go through their account with them and get them more engaged, and being able to sit down and actually do that with them has been fantastic. So, no, they've been great. And again, I guess a couple themes in my head as we kind of push through this. It doesn't matter where you're at on the technology totem pole, right? Again, you brought up a guy that hasn't even used what we would consider a basic technology, and that's section control, right? You can jump in at any point. To me, I think a lot of guys, maybe with their 2630s, let's be flat out honest, they're great display. They're getting pushed down, right? Pushed down the rung to the bottom rung of the ladder. And so as soon as we get to that point, there's some guys that say, hey, I really want to engage in this technology. Well, the next step is to upgrade your display, right? There's some things that we can't do there.
Well, so. and like you said, yeah, I know sometimes it can be a bit of a touchy subject when we're trying to maybe push a customer to upgrade because they say, well, my 2630 works great. I don't want something different. But
it's a great tool.
Well, and it is, but I think it's somewhat also a disservice to say, yeah, keep that 2630. And then in 20 years when they're trying to do something, oh yeah, that 2630 that just doesn't work for anything anymore. Like if I'm upgrading someone, and I've kind of pushed this on some of the sales that I deal with in Coldwater, is if you're gonna get them technology or upgrade technology, push them to the top rung. A lot of times they'll say, oh well, I only want a G5 because it's cheaper than a G5 Plus. I go, that might be true, but I think we need to look at not just today, but what we're going to be using it for in 10 years from now.
Well, you're talking about upgrading. Don't get caught behind to where you're so far behind. It's hard to get caught
when you upgrade them. Get off at the top floor. Don't get off at the middle, because the elevator is the building keeps getting bigger. So the middle floor is going to be at the very bottom in 10 years.
Yeah, and I get it, man. The 2630 going away, that hurts, man. That was I sold a lot display. Of those things new. Yeah, I had them memorized. I hear the beeps in my head when I'm trying to sleep.
Haunting your dreams.
Get it. It's tough to let them go.
Yeah,
and it's hard for customers to let them go. Mm-hmm. But I always tell guys, I mean, it's technology. It's you know, you don't have the iPhone 4 still
Thank you.
or whatever. I mean,
Thank
if you upgrade phones every 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, whatever. I mean, if you keep a phone 5 years, that's a long time anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of the same scenario there. So, customers are slowly, grasping that concept, and not that Deere's trying to force the hand, but we're already seeing a lot of the technology that's coming out. They're not writing the software to be used on 20-year-old screens.
Right.
The new rate controller, for example. I mean, you have a Gen 4 or G5 to run it, and I'm sorry, but I can't make it work on a 2630. So
Yeah.
It's a new rate controller. Talk just a little bit. It's a rate controller 3. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Okay. Have you messed with that at all?
I've quoted them. And I actually got our first one in for stock, and I opened it up just to take a look at the harnessing because I changed it just a little bit. There's some different harnesses, so I wanted to see what I was working with. Not that they made it harder, but it's just a little bit. Actually, they improved it because we used to have what we call the constant power harness, where you had to have that foot switch harness that everybody complained about. Why can't we make this integrated somehow?
Right.
And I agree. And now it's integrated, so you can have a virtual switch on the display now with that.
So what else? What are some of the highlights? I mean, it's a dual product.
No.
Multi-product.
No, multi-product, not well. I guess it depends on what you're talking about, right? So it can only do liquid products at the time.
Right.
I shouldn't maybe say this because it's not true, and we've never heard any word about it. But I'd be surprised if Deere doesn't find a way to make it be able to run dry and liquid product. I think they built a platform that they're going to expand on, and this is just the early form.
We can hope for that. I think that would be great.
Well, there you go. Word it that way. I hope they make it a dry and liquid product.
I would only assume because the rate controller 2000, which is essentially what it's replacing, did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I do have to grumble a little bit because I got so used to the ordering guide for the rate controllers that John Deere had beforehand, and it seems so much more streamlined than the ordering guides that they have for the rate controller 3 now. Because I also have quoted one out. Salesman has sold one out of my store, and we have to put it on one, and it spent longer than I'd like to mention trying to figure out what harnesses I needed.
You concur with that, Tyler?
Well, I was looking at this guide that they had out, and it seemed like we needed a few adapter cables, and I was kind of thinking, why are we adapting from and then back to and whatever? So I just wanted to see the harness on this thing. When I opened up the box the other day, I kind of figured it out. But it's basically just the ISO 9-pin regular ISO connections is what it is. So if you've got to connect to like the 12-pin rectangular planer harness, you need to have an adapter. Is all it is. Really.
So it might need an adapter here and there. But the reality is, again, those resources will get better. In John Deere fashion, they will improve them and make things better and easier and more simplified. But glad you brought that rate controller up. It's a new product on the market. Again, it has to be with a G4 and a G5 or just a G5?
Yep. Both. Correct. Gen 4 and G5.
Gen 4 and G5.
And it's partially because it's building into that operating system, so it doesn't seem, or it makes it more streamlined and maybe not as clunky. That's something I got from guys if they were running a newer display with the previous model rate controller, because I said, well, it has to come through our ISO bus page. Why can't it just show up? I go, it was built for the GS2, GS3 system, not the Gen 4.
I think
G5.
it's an app now. It's an app, what it
correct.
is. Yep. So that's why we can't run it through a 2630.
Yeah. So it's a little more integrated per se.
Yeah, it's a much more fashionable look.
And it looks really cool.
It looks
great. I haven't seen one in person
yet,
but the pictures, it's sleek.
That's the word I was looking for, sleek.
Yeah,
nice.
Sleek and cool.
Well, there you go. That's our first discussion on the new rate controller coming out. So
there you go.
I'm guessing as we progress through the next couple of years, those will become more and more popular, and we'll have a lot more experience and feedback on those. So definitely another piece of that technology pie. So
any other technologies that are coming 2026 to look out for, I guess? Sales, I'm sure, is on the forefront of that too.
Ooh,
I've been asked this, and everybody keeps saying, "Well, what's the big thing coming for?" And honestly,
Boundaries.
I think Commodity Classic they're releasing. They kind of tease that a little bit. So that's kind of the big thing. I think some people kind of know what it is, some people don't know what it is, but so that's maybe like the big piece of equipment, I guess, coming this year. Technology, I mean, they just kind of keep expanding on what they've already got. So, like I said, they unlocked ATTA for sprayers. I wouldn't say there's anything really new. Big deal. Well, I'm saying new technology pieces, I guess, per se. There's really nothing groundbreaking this year that I know of.
Well, and I like the way you word that, though, because you said they're expanding, right? So that's an argument or a way that we can help kind of explain why there's a subscription or a fee to use that license or that activation, because it's not the same. It's constantly getting better.
It's a product development improvement, right?
So originally, if you paid for the G5 advanced license on a sprayer, it didn't include a TTA turn automation. Now it does. And it didn't change the price because it was factored into that, right?
That's to me, it's like the software world. When you pay yearly fees for things, you're paying for improvements. And it's hard to get used to those sometimes in farming. But you bring that up too, as far as maybe expanding on things. If you look at the technology introductions we've had over the last, let's just say even 2 years, between the See and Spray, or 3 years, and autonomous tractors, right, that have hit the market, and harvest automation, there's been a gluttony of massive technologies the last couple of years. So to me, there may not be anything crazy new coming out this year, but we've still got some pretty heavy stuff that's growing and expanding and going to improve. And See and Spray, right, we're getting ready to start spraying season here pretty soon. So See and Spray is going to be a big hot topic of conversation. We had several machines out last year with See and Spray, and there's improvements in See and Spray this year. Had several combines out last fall with harvest automation. So we expect to see some improvements, right, and expansion in that technology as well. So to me, this is probably more of a growth year, improvement year, right, than a new release year outside of that rate controller. So
one thing I find interesting talking about that subscription, based product, keeping everything kind of cheap or cheap as possible while expanding.
Right, it's paying for all of it up front.
Yeah, one thing I find interesting, we take a lot of beatings, salesmen, deer, whoever, over equipment costs each year. So, every year, I think it's brand, across all colors, but it doesn't matter. But everybody's, 4% increase here, 10%, whatever it is. Every year there's a price increase on equipment. But if you look at technology, Deere's technology, it really, they don't put that price increase on technology. If you look back at the 6,000 receiver, they were, what was it, $38.95 for, I think, the whole life of the receiver.
Right. Jackson and I were just talking about that before we started. AutoTrack used to be like $6,500 when it first came out.
That's crazy.
And that was
the permanent activation.
It's essentially a base technology.
It's
now,
included,
right? Right. And that's just, again, I love talking about that technology ladder, or that technology pyramid, because things that come out and seem so amazing, like AutoTrack and section control, now are basic technologies. But you're right. The new receiver, I think what you were getting at is the new receiver is an amazing receiver, the 7500. And I'm not going to say what the price is because it may change, right? But it's not that much different than what a receiver cost 10, 15 years ago. And it's a better receiver, and it takes in a bunch more satellites. And really and truly, I want to get into that discussion, and maybe this is the time to do it, but it's pretty reasonable to get satellite-based RTK on it too, right?
That's a comparison I've been making. So, right, we're talking about currently a lot in our meetings converting from RTK to the SF RTK signal because base station radio RTK is going away.
It's going to be phased out.
Yeah,
right?
so True Land will be done by 2030. So that's, if you're going to run a high fidelity, high correction signal, it's going to have to be SF RTK if it's going to be John Deere. And that's a big comparison I make a lot is I said, well, if you look at having to buy an RTK receiver now, let's pencil out what that would cost.
Right, up front.
The price of the hardware, the receiver, price of the radio, an unlock for 6,000 would have been SF3, and then
first.
An RTK.
Right.
Yeah, first, then an RTK unlock. So you could have 15 to 20 grand or something like that wrapped up in one receiver. Then you pay a subscription on top of that. Right. And I put that to them, and they go, oh, I guess you're right.
Right. But, and you know what the reality is? I mean, you're almost pinching pennies at that point, let's be honest, because your investment in that receiver is so much less to begin with. And on a 7-year, let's just look at maybe 5 to 7 year plan, you're really about breaking even when you figure the cost of that SF-RTK subscription. But I think that's what you were getting at.
Tyler, my point was, the technology has been historically kind of staying the same price. When they come out with a new display, it's that price. And the reason they can keep it low is because of the subscriptions.
Right.
They don't feel that they have to raise the price on a G5 Plus display 5% every year because they've got subscriptions coming in. They're expanding on it. And actually, if you look back, a G5 Plus display is considerably cheaper than what like the 2630s were with the same activations.
All the activations.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and again, we're able to continue to build and improve on the technology with some of those subscription fees. So there's a method to that madness. But go back to RTK, one more thing. I guess, again, those, we've not been shy about discussing it. We've discussed it on a podcast before. That's been a pretty big part of these winter visits as well, is just making sure people understand why we're doing what we're doing. And the reality is the future platforms for John Deere, when you think about See and Spray and autonomous tractors, they're based around that SF-RTK platform, right? So the reality is down the road, and they're very comfortable with the success of SF-RTK when they're willing to put a driverless tractor out in the field and let it run off SF-RTK.
Yeah.
So that's where we're headed, right? That's what these future platforms are going to be built off of. And to me, I was skeptical of satellite RTK before. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I was going to say I had to update how I've or change, I guess, and maybe not update, but change how I was discussing that with customers, because I don't know when they kind of made that change. Deere did in their documentation, but it has been changed from, I think, what they had like 5-year repeatability or something like that to now it's indefinite,
Right?
Because they're able to confirm that as long as you don't live in certain locations where there's constant, movement of like tectonic plates and stuff like on a fault line, like like California, it's indefinitely repeatable. So here in the Midwest, we're pretty safe. So you can map those boundaries and feel good about them not moving for the next however 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that just kind of speaks to how precise it is. We're down to tectonic plate movement.
And the tides, the ocean tides, right? Like it's crazy.
And
it's pretty darn good.
We talked about that again.
What time of day did you make this line?
Were the tides this way or that way?
We have some really good engineers out there. I know we talked about that in the podcast with Chad Lance one time too, calculating some of that stuff. But the reality is you brought that up, and I want to clarify that when they first brought out satellite RTK, SFRTK, they talked about how it was good for 5-year repeatability. But at that point, that's all the data they had was 5 years worth. So now we're 7-8 years into this, and they're pretty confident that you're going to have that 7 and 8 year repeatability up to this point. So to me, I don't know what you can ask for much more than that. And I also want to point out that, again, fantastic receiver. The 7500 is an awesome receiver. It takes in a lot more satellites, starts up quick. SFRTK is a reasonably priced subscription when you figure the upfront cost of the receiver. And when we had a lot of solar storms over the last year and a half, you would have thought satellite-based RTK would have fallen on its face, and it shined like a diamond.
That was very surprising when we kind of put that together and realized that the radio RTK actually struggled somewhat more than the satellite-based RTK in solar flares.
Right.
So
and that just blew me away. That to me sold me on this technology. And I don't know if it's because those those receivers take in so many more satellites to begin with or not, but it was the one receiver we never had complaints on during all those solar storms. So coming, like you said, our intent, how we're handling this is we are winding down some unused or very lightly used towers, taking them off the network and asking people to move to a neighboring tower that's used by a few more people. We're definitely slowly winding that network down, and with the intent of being done by, like you said, by the year 2030. So keep that in mind. I know it's a tough conversation to have with guys, but
and I'm maybe biased on it because I work for the company, but I think I like the approach that we've taken on it. Sure. We didn't force anybody's hand. Hey, we're taking this tower down tomorrow. Right. Like when SFRTK came out, I was at some dealer meetings where the dealers said we pulled, like the minute we could get them, we pulled all of our towers down and told the customers, you're done, figure it out, whatever, buy SFRTK. So they pulled their towers immediately, and that was 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it came out. And so we've given ample time to kind of slowly transition customers at their own pace, and we still aren't yanking it, necessarily. So
and let's be honest. I mean, there's guys that have invested a lot into their receiver cost structure, and I get that, and I'm sympathetic with that. There are some people there that maybe customers that don't even have RTK, and they're a pretty good candidate to jump right into SFRTK, or we may have some customers that are still running RTK on a 3000 receiver, right? And we know the 3000s are kind of winding down. They're in their nursing home years, if you will. Yeah. And so there are some scenarios out there for certain customers that are really primed to jump into SFRTK right now.
Yeah, there's been conversations that I've had where I look at the receivers they have on the farm and I go, oh, you could turn it on today if you wanted. Maybe you're paid up for this year still, so we'll write it out and then we'll make that change next year. Or it's, we have that timeline where I say, okay, you don't have any, you have 3000s. We're going to have to slowly transition you to get 7000s or 7500s set. Right. We can turn it on when the time calls for it. Tyler, I had to point this out. When you said you were biased because you work for the dealership, I thought you were going to make a point about climbing RTK towers and how fun that is.
That's a whole other aspect
Never
of the
been
job,
shy
I guess,
about admitting that our guys aren't crazy about.
No.
If you haven't upgraded yet, just do it for the safety of our guys so they don't have to climb the towers.
Well, I know it's coming spring when the first wheels start to turn. We're going to get calls, and there's going to be 3, 4, 5 towers down. That something happened over winter. Yeah, right.
And I think
antenna fell off, like got struck by lightning, or whatever.
And it always seems to be your towers.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to bring up too. Is going back to why this change is happening, and if you look at the driverless tractor, John Deere can't. The radio network has been historically maintained and operated by dealerships across the country.
Right.
And they can't know the integrity of each of those towers to know if they're on a wobbly grain leg, or if if they go out and the tractor's out there driving itself and the tower fell down or lost power.
Raccoons are eating through the breakers.
Yeah, and we've seen it all, right? So this takes out that variable, and it's all coming from satellites, which they know the integrity of. They can predict everything that's going to happen with it. So that's kind of part of the reason going into this change.
You're talking about localized, almost man-made stuff that's not going to be consistent across the country.
And we've seen some. We do a lot of traveling, road tripping, and I always try to see, if I can find a tower as we're driving through, if there's a grain leg. And some of these, not our towers, of course, but some of these are pretty janky across the country that just, how's this working? Why did they ever think that was a good idea?
Is there a chance there's some sway in there, back and forth, and they're affecting that signal? But no, you're making a great point, and they've been fairly difficult to maintain lately too. Just of getting parts and amplifiers and things has become a lot harder. So there's a lot of reasoning behind this, but it's going to happen, and it's progress. Sometimes progress is painful, right?
Well, that's exactly true. It's a good point. If you're growing, most of the time, it's going to take getting out of your comfort zone, because you can't grow if you just stay in the same spot the whole time. So
That's right. Got some good stuff coming. So I'm going to put Tyler T on the
hot seat.
Yeah, again here. When you think about your customers getting ready for spring, what kind of pops into your head? Planners, things. What's on your mind?
I know, talking out in the service department, that we've had a lot of combines in for inspections over the winter here,
Which is normal, right? After the season.
And that's perfectly normal. And I actually talked to one. And he said, "This is my last combine. We've got more to do," but he said we're starting to turn into we're starting to work on planners now. So there are guys getting that mindset. Hey, planning's coming one way or another here. A few short months, so time to get those out, get them ready to go. The more you can do in the off season here, the smoother the spring goes. I mean, we've all got a million things going on. So like I talked about before, tie up those loose ends, get those subscriptions renewed that you need done. Don't wait till the last minute or you're sitting in the field to get it done. Don't pull the planner out. If you want to plant tomorrow, don't pull it out today.
Right.
We see that a lot too, but just preparedness, I guess, is maybe the word, I guess.
And the ideal time, obviously, to get planters inspected would be when you're done planting, right? It would be great to take them to the shop right then and there. But obviously, if it's not too late, I know we're getting pretty close. But if you feel like you got to have some work done or need something inspected, I'm sure they would be glad to kick the combine out and bring the planter in. Right? We got a little time before harvest, so inspections are good. Making sure you got good metal, all your bushings and everything are in good shape, and subscriptions up to date. Right? Obviously, if there's something you're looking at doing, want to add to your operation this year, a good time to talk about it, whether it's a technology, whether it's something onto your planter, maybe a row starter system, right? Maybe some row cleaners or some no-till stuff, and really good time to kind of get some of that stuff going and get it wrapped up here, because we are spring is coming fast.
Winter is almost over, and that's kind of crazy to think about, because I feel like I still haven't gotten enough done this winter.
Yeah, it went by quick. Spring is coming, and any other thoughts, you guys?
One thought, just touching again back on the receivers. One, I don't know. Do you guys have guys that use 3 or 4 different towers and they constantly have to switch all the time?
Yes,
great point.
Another benefit of the SFRTK system. I've got a lot of guys that they're kind of between towers, and when they're up in this field, they got to switch to this tower. And when they're over in this field, they got to switch to this tower.
Yep.
So SFRTK, you can plant here in Ohio and drive 4 hours west into Indiana and plant
and
on
go
the
to Montana.
You can do whatever you want there and use the same signal. So that's huge in a lot of guys' operations.
Yeah, I gave that same sales pitch this week on it. I got it's funny. Yeah, they are supposed to use 2, 3, 4 towers, but how many times does the operator remember to change?
Right.
I've run into that. I'm like, hey, did you actually swap between towers? Because your boundary that you pulled in has no correction signal tied to it.
Great point.
Or hey, there's an X after my RTK. What's going on there?
Right.
Yeah, love getting those calls.
No, that's a great point. That's again another good selling point of SFRTK is towers are relevant, right? It's not a localized thing. Then it's a signal that's coming out of the sky, and it can hit you anywhere in the country. So good stuff. Parting thoughts?
Burning desires that you just have to talk about now?
Ryan Maxwell, you've not been short for words.
Put him on the spot.
We could probably talk all day if we really
could
wanted
keep
to.
this
But
going. No, I was just going to say get the planter out of barn as quick as you can. Soon, I would say. get a hold of us. We've got, support packages that we're offering. I think something that gets neglected on inspections is the technology piece of it. Let us come out, check it over, update software, look for broken wires, and I tell my guys, let me make sure that the day you go to the field that your technology is the last thing you have to worry about, because that helps you not be frustrated. That helps me because my phone's going to be ringing off the hook. Let's alleviate some of those problems beforehand.
Great point. We got very reasonable tech support packages through our department, and obviously would love to get a lot of customers on those again, because now's the time to be doing the updates and making sure everything's going to work right, and making sure your measurements and things are in, and so that you can go to the field and ensure that things are going to work properly.
Like your prescriptions loaded up, you're going
to all the strips in there. Ryan, like you mentioned, integrated solutions. We're integrated through the dealership, so don't think just because you went to service or you went to parts that you can't talk to them about precision ag and get us involved.
That's right.
Whether it be stuff for a display or receiver in the cab, or your implement needing software or something of that nature, or if you're talking even, like you said, salesman or CAM, the conversation can turn into precision ag in any one of our departments.
That's right.
So let us be a part of it.
I'll just speak on this, being kind of the new guy. We have a phenomenal team, a lot of knowledge across the board. And, I used to work for a neighboring dealer that's a little bit bigger than TrueLand, and we only had 5 people doing this job. And here at TrueLand, we have 20. And of course, a few of us, Tyler and I, are dual role. We do multiple things, but it's a huge department considering, and it's the knowledge base. We're all from different backgrounds. Some of us grew up on farms, some of us, Josh is, agronomy expert. I grew up working on cars and engines. Like, we all have different expertise, and we all come together as a really, really good group.
Great group. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I'll be the first to admit, I don't know what I would do if we didn't have our IS group chat, because that's, if I don't know it and I can't find the deer documentation on it, first place I go. I'll throw that question out there, and we have a huge range.
And you got an answer in minutes.
I was
going to say, I don't mean to sound lazy. Like, you can probably find a CCMS case somewhere, but I can get the answer way quicker in that chat.
Oh, for
because
sure.
Somebody already knows the answer.
Just ask Jolene.
She's got them memorized. There's no reason for me to
She
look
can give you the CCMS number out of her head. Yeah,
she's going to be teaching us on how to find CCMS cases now.
No, we do. I appreciate you bringing that up. We got a great team. We love our team, and it's a big team. But not only are we're there's a variety in experiences, a variety in ages and age of experience, and like you said, we got the mechanical guys, the tech guys. I'm the agronomy guy, and everybody seems to have a little bit of area of specialty and expertise that add to the equations. We pride ourselves on our support and our call center as well. We've talked about that before, and a lot of those support packages all include the call center in them. So we're definitely here to help you guys and make sure everything works smooth, and it's a pleasure to serve our customers in that way. So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not to go back again, but I'm going to. The call center, right? It's such a great tool because it's for the dealer and for the customer, in the sense that the way I spin it to my customers a lot is I tell them it's a way to make sure that we're not leaving you hanging in the field, because there may be 20 of us, but if each store has 20 customers that are needing help with precision related things, they all need it at the same time. My phone can only talk to one person at a time, and you call and you need to know what button to hit, call the call center.
Yeah.
That 5-minute question or 5-minute phone call to help you figure out what button to hit, taken care of. Like that. And then you're on your way. You don't have to wait for me to get back 2 hours later because I'm helping a guy get a planter started.
So great point. Yeah. If you've got any questions, please reach out to your local CST, Precision Ag CST, and we'll see what we can do for you. So on that note, thanks for joining us, you guys. This was fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, we must be going long because Josh is just not giving us an option.
Got to wrap it up here.
He's got us off
over there.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up. Oh, thanks for joining us, guys. This was fun. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Talk to you next time.
See you guys.